The sound of clapping and upbeat music filled the stage as Portia Jameson stepped off the floor, her heart still racing. Just last night, she had received an outrageous offer, $500,000 for a single lap dance. The man behind it? A handsome stranger named Keith Anderson. It wasn't like she had a choice. With rent overdue and no real job in sight, that kind of money felt like a miracle. So she agreed. She gave him the lap dance, her hands trembling, her mind buzzing with disbelief. But after that night, Keith vanished. No phone call, no message, no payment. And so, here she was again, back at the neon-lit Velvet Lounge, the strip club in downtown Miami, where she had applied as a dancer the previous evening. Her plan? Find Keith, get paid. Portia stepped through the club's velvet-lined doors, nerves clashing with determination. She scanned the crowd and quickly spotted Maggie, a dancer she had briefly met before. Maggie stood near a booth, chatting with a few male customers. "Maggie," Portia called out as she walked toward her. The woman turned her head and blinked in surprise. "Portia, what are you doing here? You disappeared last night. They didn't even process your audition," Maggie said as she stepped away from her clients. "I know, I didn't mean to disappear, but I had to find someone, Keith Anderson," Portia replied quietly, trying to avoid attracting attention. "Keith, who's that?" Maggie asked, leaning in closer now that they were talking in a more private tone. Portia sighed. "Last night, while I was applying, this guy, Keith, approached me. He offered me $500,000 for a lap dance." Maggie's eyes widened in disbelief. $500,000 for a lap dance? Are you serious? Did he actually pay you? Portia shook her head, bitterness creeping into her voice. "He vanished after I danced for him. That's why I'm back, hoping he'll return so I can get what he owes me." Maggie rubbed her chin thoughtfully. "I haven't heard of any Keith Anderson, but I'll ask around. Maybe one of the other dancers or staff knows him." "Thank you so much," Portia replied earnestly. "I really need that money. You know how desperate things are for me." Maggie nodded, her tone now serious. "Don't worry, we'll do everything we can to track him down, but you ever think you might have been scammed?" Portia froze at the suggestion. "God, I hope not. I gave up that audition just for that damned lap dance. What if it was a setup?" "I mean, $500,000 is huge," Maggie replied. "If someone offered me that kind of money and I was struggling, I might have done the same thing." "I can't even apply here again," Portia said in frustration. "I need a job that pays big and fast." "Well, maybe someone saw him," Maggie said, trying to lighten the mood. "Let's start by asking Carla. She's been here forever and knows everyone." They made their way to the back of the club, where a woman with perfectly done makeup was checking herself out in a compact mirror. "Carla," Maggie began, "sorry to bother you, but do you know a guy named Keith Anderson? He's got a serious debt with my friend here." Carla glanced at Portia. "Keith Anderson? Doesn't ring a bell. What does he look like?" Portia thought for a moment. He's got a medium skin tone, not too light, not too dark, tall, sharp nose, deep-set eyes, full lips, thick brows. Oh, and he has a small mole above his left eyebrow. Muscular arms. Looked like he had money." Maggie smirked. "You don't remember him, but you remember the exact spot of his mole?" Carla laughed. "Well, from that description, he sounds hot. But no, sorry, don't know anyone like that, but maybe Vince, the VIP manager, would." "Thanks, Carla," the two girls said, before heading to the VIP office. When they knocked, Vince, dressed in an all-black dress shirt, looked up from his paperwork. "Maggie, what's up?" "Do you know a Keith Anderson?" Maggie asked bluntly. "Carla said you might since you handle all the VIPs. Vince scratched his head. "Can't say I do. If he's been here, I don't remember him. But ask Linda. She talks to most of the VIP guys. They thanked Vince and made their way to the lounge, where Linda was chatting with a few businessmen. When she saw Maggie approaching, she excused herself from the group and joined them. "Hey, what's going on? Who's your friend?" she asked curiously. "This is Portia. We're trying to find someone named Keith Anderson. He owes her $500,000, Maggie explained. Linda raised an eyebrow and looked at Portia. "Keith Anderson? Doesn't ring a bell. What's he look like?" Portia repeated the description. Linda shook her head. "Sorry, doesn't sound familiar. Try Tony, our bouncer. He's on door duty and sees everyone who comes in." They thanked Linda and walked to the main entrance. Portia could feel the weight of anxiety pressing down on her chest. Maggie nudged her. "Tony might have seen him. He's seen everyone." Tony was busy checking IDs when they approached. "Tony," Maggie began, "do you know a guy named Keith Anderson? Owes my friend a lot of money." Tony looked up at Portia. "What's he look like?" Portia gave the same description once more. Tony frowned and shook his head. "Nope, doesn't ring a bell. Maybe he's new or only came in once." Portia sighed in defeat. "Thanks anyway." "What now?" Maggie asked as they stepped outside. "I think I'll wait out here. Maybe he'll come back," Portia said. "You sure you don't want to wait inside?" "No, it's better if I stay out here. I'll see him right away." Maggie nodded. "Okay, but I have to head in and get ready. I'm sorry I can't stay." "Don't be. I'm just grateful you helped," Portia said, trying to hold back her frustration. "I really wish I could do more, but I've got my own money problems too." Portia's heart softened. "You're a good sister, Maggie. Even after everything your brother's done, you're still trying to help him." "That's just how it is," Maggie said sadly. "I love him, no matter what." "Take care," Portia called as Maggie went back inside. "You too. Don't lose hope, okay? I'll keep asking around," Maggie promised. And with that, Portia was left alone outside the club, clinging to the only thing she had left: hope. Portia waited outside the club for nearly 3 hours, hoping Keith would show up, but not even a glimpse of him passed her by. Disheartened and deeply frustrated, she finally decided to go home. The next morning, at exactly 6 a.m., a series of loud knocks startled her awake. Groggy and anxious, she pulled open the door, and there stood Minerva, a wealthy, snobbish woman dressed in an expensive suit. Her arms were crossed tightly, and her face twisted with contempt. "Good morning, Portia," Minerva greeted, her voice dripping with arrogance. "Good morning. Miss Minerva, please come in." "No need," Minerva cut her off. "You already know why I'm here, don't you?" Before Portia could explain, Minerva snapped, "Where's the money? I need payment for the $20,000 your parents owed me. Now." Portia scrambled for words. "Ma'am Minerva, I'm really sorry. My parents just passed away recently and we've been going through a lot. So what if your parents just died? Are you trying to say their debt dies with them?" Minerva's voice rose with fury. "A debt is a debt." "I'm not saying that," Portia pleaded. "I'm just asking for more time. It's $300,000. I don't have that kind of money right now. I'm trying to find work. I promise I'll give you everything I earn." Minerva laughed mockingly. "You? Find work? You didn't even finish school. You think you'll land some high-paying job?" "That doesn't matter," Portia replied, trying to stay calm. "Please just give me a little more time. I'll find a way." "You know," Minerva said coldly, "I know someone who's looking for a girl who's paid by the night. 1 night's worth of work, and your debt's cleared." Portia clenched her fists. "Oh, really? Is that how you got rich, Miss Minerva?" Minerva's eyes flared. "You have 1 month to pay. If not, your house is mine. End of discussion." Without waiting for a reply, Minerva stormed off. Portia closed the door slowly behind her, breathing heavily. She walked into the living room, her heart pounding. Her eyes landed on a dusty old picture frame sitting on a side table. She picked it up carefully. Inside was a photo of her smiling parents standing in front of their home. She sank into the couch, holding the photo tightly, whispering, "Mum, Dad, I'm sorry, things are so hard right now, but I promise, I won't lose this house." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "We made so many memories here. This is where I grew up, where you taught me everything. I can't let it be taken away. I'll fight for this. I swear I won't give up." Wiping her face, she whispered, "I'll do everything I can to pay our debt. No one's going to take this house away." Still holding the picture, she stood up and walked to the window. "I can do this," she told herself. "I just have to collect from Keith. I can't give up. Not now." After a moment of silence, she set the photo back on the table and stared at herself in the mirror. "You got this, Portia. For Mum and Dad." She took a deep breath and began thinking. One idea struck her: social media. She rushed back to her room and grabbed her phone. "Keith Anderson," she muttered as she typed his name into the search bar. Dozens of profiles appeared. She scrolled through them carefully until she found one with his face. "Yes, that's him," she whispered excitedly, waiting for the timeline to load despite the weak internet signal. Once the page loaded, she saw that Keith was active and had several posts about his life. Wasting no time, she messaged him. "Hi Keith, this is Portia. Remember me? We met at the club a few nights ago. You promised to pay me $500,000 after the lap dance. Can I collect it now?" She pressed send and waited, staring at the screen. Minutes passed, then hours. Still no reply. "He's probably just busy," she told herself. She scrolled through his feed and found out that Keith was a flight attendant. The next morning, the first thing she did after waking up was check her phone, but still no message. She couldn't take it anymore. She messaged him again. "Keith, please. I really need the money. Please read my message." Still no response. On the third day, she wrote a longer message. "Keith, I'm sorry if I'm being too persistent, but I truly need the money. Even if it's just $300,000 for now. I need it as soon as possible. Please, I'm begging you. Just reply." By that point, Portia was nearly out of hope, but she kept messaging him, clinging to the thought that he'd read her words eventually. "Keith, I know you're busy, but please, even just for a second, read my messages. I'm counting on you for the money you promised. I don't know who else to turn to." But despite her pleading, nothing came. No reply from Keith, no sign he had even read her messages. Desperate, Portia decided to message his friends. She went back through his profile and checked the posts he had been tagged in. "Who are these people?" she murmured, reading through names. There were 3, Shauna, Quincy, and Jericho. She decided to message all 3. To Shauna. "Hi Shauna, sorry to bother you. I just need to know if you have a way to contact Keith Anderson. He owes me $500,000. I'm just trying to collect it." "Thank you." To Quincy. "Hello Quincy, I'm sorry for the trouble. I'm looking for Keith Anderson. Do you know where I might find him? Thank you so much." To Jericho. "Hi Jericho, sorry to disturb you. Are you related to Keith Anderson? I really need to reach him. I hope you can help me. Thanks." After sending the messages, she waited, hoping at least one of them would reply. But hours passed. Still nothing. Another day went by. No message, no scene, no reply. Portia was starting to lose all hope. On the second day of waiting, Portia was truly beginning to feel hopeless. "Why won't they respond?" she whispered to herself, frustration swelling in her chest. Just thinking about the possibility of losing the house brought pain that she couldn't ignore. Still, Even without replies, she wouldn't give up. She knew she had to find another way. "I have to find Keith. I can't give up now," she muttered while staring at Keith's profile again, trying to figure out her next move. Meanwhile, at a nightclub in Spain, laughter echoed as Keith, Shauna, and Jericho were out partying. They drank, danced, and celebrated with no clue where their friend Quincy had wandered off after kissing someone at the bar. Amid the fun, Shauna noticed a message request. Curious, she opened it. The message came from someone named Portia Jameson, and what she read shocked her. "Keith owes someone $500,000, she blurted out, glancing toward the guys who were both heavily drunk with their heads slumped on the table. "Keith," she said, nudging him, "you got a message. Says you owe someone $500,000. Portia Jameson. Is that true?" Keith groaned and slowly lifted his head. "Huh? What?" "This girl messaged me. Said you promised her $500,000 after a lap dance. What's that about? Were you serious?" Shauna asked, holding her phone up to his face. Keith burst out laughing, completely drunk. "Oh, that. I remember now. I wasn't serious. I was wasted that night. I just said it for fun." Shauna's eyes widened. "You offered $500,000 for a lap dance? Are you crazy?" "I was drunk, okay?" "I didn't mean it. She fell for it way too fast." Keith shrugged. "Well, she clearly thinks you meant it, and she's asking for it now. Do you realize how serious that amount is?" Shauna insisted. "Don't worry about it. She'll get tired eventually and stop messaging. She's not getting anything from me," Keith said, rubbing his temples. "But Keith, it's not right. You made a promise, even if you were drunk," Shauna argued. Keith waved her off. "Relax, Shauna. It's nothing." He stood and staggered away, leaving Shauna frustrated and confused. Jericho, who had just woken up from his drunken state, spoke. "Let it go, Shauna. You know how he is. Once he decides something, there's no changing his mind." Shauna sighed. "I know, but this still doesn't feel right." That evening, as Portia was browsing social media again, she saw Keith's new story. He had posted a photo at the airport. The caption read, "Heading back to the US from Spain." She suddenly remembered. Keith was a flight attendant. That gave her an idea. She printed a large sign that read, "Keith Anderson, pay your $500,000 debt." The next morning, Portia went straight to the airport, clutching the sign as she waited at the arrivals terminal. As passengers streamed in, one man stopped dead in his tracks upon seeing the bold placard. People began staring and whispering. "Whoa! Keith Anderson, pay your $500,000 debt." A nearby traveler read aloud, chuckling. "That's a new way to collect." "Going all the way to the airport to call him out? Bold move," said another. Despite the stares and laughter, Portia didn't flinch. She stood her ground. "Keith Anderson," she shouted, "are you going to pay what you owe me, or do I have to embarrass you further?" Keith's eyes widened in horror when he saw her. "Portia, what the hell are you doing here?" "Come here, we need to talk," she said firmly, still holding the sign high. Keith approached hesitantly, trying to shield his face from the growing crowd. "Can we not do this here?" "We'll talk right here, in front of everyone. I want them all to hear the truth," Portia declared. "When are you going to pay me what you owe?" All eyes were on them now, the terminal buzzing with tension. Okay, I'll fix it," Keith muttered, clearly annoyed. "Just give me 2 weeks. I swear I'll pay you." 2 weeks? Portia asked. "How can I trust you won't just disappear again?" Keith hesitated. "Fine, I'll give you my address and contact number. Is that good enough?" Portia stared him down. "Fine, I'll come collect it myself." Keith nodded reluctantly and scribbled down his contact details. "Just, please put the sign away." Portia lowered it, and Keith rushed off, embarrassed and overwhelmed. But as Portia left the airport, her expression softened. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. 2 weeks had passed since Keith promised to pay Portia. On the day he was supposed to deliver, she made her way to his apartment, determined to make sure the matter was settled. She knocked firmly on the door. After a few moments, it swung open, and there stood Keith, shirtless, clearly surprised. "What the hell? I thought it was Jericho," he muttered, quickly shutting the door again to throw on a tank top. Portia swallowed hard after catching a glimpse of his sculpted torso and six-pack abs. When he opened the door again, now dressed, he asked flatly, "What do you want?" "I'm here about our agreement. Did you forget?" Portia replied. "It's been 2 weeks, Keith. I really need that money. I have to pay off my own debt." Keith scratched his head. "That's today? Damn, I'm really sorry. My account's still frozen. I can't withdraw anything yet. Just give me a little more time, maybe a few days. I'll pay you then." Portia frowned. "Keith, I can't keep hearing that. You promised me, and I need that money now. I'm in a really bad situation." "I get it, I really do," he said, trying to sound sincere. "But I swear, in 3 more days, everything will be fine. My account will be sorted, and I'll pay you. Please." Disappointed and exhausted, Portia sighed. "All right, Keith, but this is your last extension. 3 days. That's it. I have my own deadline, too." "I promise. 3 days," Keith replied, forcing a smile. Portia walked away, carrying the heavy weight of uncertainty on her shoulders, knowing she had no choice but to hope Keith would follow through this time. But once again, 3 days passed, and still no payment. Keith claimed his account was still frozen because of an unresolved issue. Portia pleaded with him, begging for any amount, anything at all to help her pay off her debt. But nothing came of it. Keith seemed more and more indifferent. She left his apartment in tears, completely defeated. She had to find another way to come up with the $300,000 in less than a day. The next morning, the 1-month deadline that Minerva had given her came to an end. Portia had only stepped out briefly to buy a cheap breakfast from a food stall at the corner, and when she returned, she found Minerva and some men dragging her belongings out of the house. She ran toward them in a panic. "Ma'am Minerva, please, I'm begging you. Just a little more time. I'll pay you. Please." "I told you, Portia, a debt is a debt, and it must be paid on time," Minerva replied coldly, continuing to order her things out of the house. Portia's tears fell freely. "Where will I go? I have no one, no family left, no place to stay." "That's not my problem. I don't care how much you cry. I won't feel sorry for you," Minerva said sharply. Portia dropped to her knees. "Please, ma'am, even just 1 more week. I'll find a way. Don't take the house from me." She clutched the hem of Minerva's clothing, desperate and sobbing. "Please give me just 1 more week. I'll find a solution, I swear." Minerva yanked her clothing free. "Didn't you hear me? The deadline's up. You're lucky I gave you that month at all. But what did you do? You wasted it." Portia sobbed louder. "It's not easy to come up with $300,000. I tried everything. I searched for any solution, but I couldn't find that much money. You need to accept reality. You have no more options. Get out. I don't care if you end up homeless," Minerva snapped. "I promised my parents I wouldn't let anything happen to this house. Please, Miss Minerva," Portia wailed, her voice cracking. "Oh, enough with the drama," Minerva yelled as she tossed the last of Portia's things into the street. "Get out of my sight! I don't want to see your face again." Portia's heart shattered. She gathered her belongings from the pavement, her hands trembling, her face soaked with tears. Each step away from her home felt like a betrayal of her parents. "I couldn't do it, Mom. Dad," she whispered, glancing back one last time. I didn't protect our home. She wept as she walked aimlessly, lost in a world that now felt cold and merciless. Meanwhile, back at Keith's apartment, he opened the door, and there stood Portia, luggage in hand. Before he could say anything, she pushed past him and walked straight inside. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Keith demanded, brows furrowed. "Why are you carrying your stuff?" Portia dropped her bags in the living room. "I'm staying here." "What? Says who? I didn't agree to that," Keith snapped. "You can't just show up and live here." "If you'd paid what you owed me, I wouldn't be in this mess," Portia fired back. "You're the reason I got kicked out, so now I'm staying, whether you like it or not." Keith threw his hands in the air. "This isn't how things work, Portia. I don't owe you a place to live." "I don't have anywhere else to go," she said firmly. "You owe me money. If you'd paid, I'd still have a home. So yeah, I'm staying." "You can't force your way in here," Keith yelled, trying to hold back his temper. "There's no other way," Portia replied calmly. "You brought this on yourself." Infuriated, Keith watched as she lay down on the couch. "What the hell, Portia? Get up. What are people going to think if they see you here? They'll think we're married or something." "That's your concern? What people will think?" she scoffed. "You don't even care that I'm homeless?" Keith went silent. "Fine," he said eventually, "but you're splitting rent, utilities, and water with me." "Deduct it from the $500,000 you owe me," she said coolly. "You already enjoyed the lap dance. Don't think you're getting away with this." "Whatever," Keith grumbled as he walked toward his bedroom. "Hey, grab me a glass of water. I'm dying of thirst," Portia called out. "What the hell? You're treating me like your servant now?" Keith snapped. "You're lucky I let you in." "I walked all the way here, carrying all my stuff. I'm exhausted. And by the way, you still owe me 500 grand, she reminded him. "Fine. Here's your water, master," Keith muttered sarcastically, handing her a glass. Portia took it and sniffed suspiciously. "What the... Why does this smell weird? Why is it cloudy? Did this come from the toilet?" Keith smirked. "Nope." "Then what is it? Why does it look like this?" "From the aquarium," he said, trying not to laugh. Portia's jaw dropped. "You're disgusting." "If you want clean water, get it yourself. You've got hands and feet, don't you?" he teased. Rolling her eyes, Portia stood up and got her own drink. She was far too thirsty to keep arguing. From that day on, living in Keith's apartment felt like living in a battlefield. Since Portia moved into Keith's apartment, their daily life had become a constant clash, like cats and dogs under one roof. Every day they argued, bickered, and never seemed to agree on anything. The smallest issues would turn into shouting matches. There was always tension hanging in the air, like a bomb waiting to explode. One morning, while Portia was cooking breakfast, she played her favorite song through the speaker. She sang along and danced as she moved around the kitchen, enjoying herself, until Keith suddenly turned the speaker off. "Why'd you turn that off?" Portia protested. Keith rolled his eyes. "Because it's noise. That song sucks." "What? It's a great song. It actually makes things feel lighter," she shot back. "Well, I think your music taste is terrible," he said, walking off. Portia bit her tongue and went back to cooking. "He doesn't complain about loud music at the club," she muttered under her breath. When she was done, she scooped out a portion for herself, and then, out of spite, chopped up some hot peppers and tossed them into what was left in the pan, the part she'd leave for Keith. Sometimes their fights were over kitchen tools or counter space. Even simple things like setting the table or bedtime schedules led to shouting matches. Not a day went by without them arguing, always butting heads in their cramped apartment. Despite the tension, they were somehow learning to adjust to each other. And in between the yelling, There were awkward moments that neither could avoid. One morning, Keith walked out of the bathroom wearing nothing but a towel. "Good morning," he said with a mischievous grin as he passed the living room where Portia was sitting. Her eyes widened. She quickly looked away. "Seriously, Keith, do you have to flaunt your body like that in front of me?" Keith laughed. "What? Are my abs making you nervous? I mean, this body should be shown off." "You're so shameless," she mumbled, blushing. Keith stepped closer. "Why are you blushing then? Just admit it. You're into me." Portia stood up and turned her back on him. "You're disgusting. Go get dressed." Keith chuckled. All right, I'm leaving. But I know you looked." He disappeared into his room, leaving Portia flustered and confused about her own reaction. "What's so attractive about his six-pack anyway?" she muttered, heading into the kitchen for coffee. But just as she took a sip, the memory of his bare chest flashed in her mind, and she nearly choked. As time passed, Keith and Portia gradually grew more accustomed to each other. The fights didn't vanish, but something between them began to shift. One morning, while Keith cooked breakfast, Portia noticed he was playing her favorite song. She couldn't help but smile. "Good morning," she greeted him, walking up to check what he was making. "What's for breakfast?" "Morning," Keith said, returning her smile. "I tried making a Spanish tortilla. Want to try some?" "Sure," she replied, taking a bite. "Wow, this is really good. Where'd you learn this?" Keith smirked. "I've got hidden talents. I tried it while I was in Spain and liked it, so I figured I'd make it for you." Portia blinked, caught off guard. "Should I be flattered?" They looked at each other for a moment. "I mean, it's sweet of you to let me try it," she said quickly, looking away. Keith went back to cooking, a quiet smile forming on his lips. Portia glanced at him from the corner of her eye, a hint of a smile on her own. One afternoon, they sat side by side on the couch, watching a horror movie. The dark living room was filled with suspenseful music and sudden scares. "This movie's terrifying. Are you sure you want to watch this?" Portia asked, holding a throw pillow up to her face. "It's not that scary. Honestly, watching you jump is more entertaining," Keith teased, pointing out the popcorn that had scattered over Portia from her reactions. "Why are you watching me? Watch the movie," she muttered. "I just like seeing your reactions," he replied with a grin. As the movie built toward an intense scene, Keith suddenly yelled to scare her. Portia screamed in fright and instinctively wrapped her arms around him. Their faces were suddenly too close. Their lips brushed. Portia quickly pulled away, shocked. Keith sat frozen in place. Sorry, Keith. I didn't mean to. You just startled me." "It's fine," he said softly, his face slightly red. The atmosphere turned quiet and awkward. But as the days passed, those moments of awkwardness began turning into something gentler, something almost sweet. The daily shouting started to fade, replaced by laughter and quiet conversations. Their shared routines became more meaningful. They started learning more about each other, letting their guards down bit by bit. Portia began to see another side of Keith, one that was kind and surprisingly caring. And as their connection deepened, so did the feelings they tried to ignore. It was no longer just cohabitation. Something real was growing between them. One afternoon, Portia had just gotten home from her new job when she approached the front door of Keith's apartment and heard unfamiliar voices coming from inside. The door was slightly ajar. She paused and leaned closer, trying to make out the words. "I thought Portia had already left," said a woman's voice. Portia recognized it. It was Faith, Keith's sister. "I really don't like the feeling of having strangers around. What if she does something to you, Keith? Or worse, steals from you?" Faith said. Portia's chest tightened. The last time Faith visited, she had acted polite, friendly even, but now it was clear she had been pretending. You can't just judge her like that, Faith. Keith's voice responded calmly. She seems like a good person. She's got no bad intentions. And besides, we've been living together for months now. But what if she's only pretending? I'm just looking out for you, Keith. I don't trust that woman. I appreciate your concern, but I trust Portia. I know her well enough now. She's not going to hurt me, Keith said. Well, whether you like it or not, I'm going to tell Mom and Dad. I want her out of here, Faith snapped. Portia didn't wait to hear more. Instead of walking in, she turned around and left the building. She couldn't bear the thought of seeing Faith's face after hearing all that. She walked to a nearby coffee shop and sat there for hours, trying to figure out what to do. She didn't want to be the reason for tension between Keith and his family. Later that evening, she quietly returned to the apartment. When she walked in, Keith noticed her downcast expression. Portia? You look upset, he said, offering a small smile. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine, just tired from work, she replied, trying to mask her sadness. Keith didn't press further and went off to take a shower. Meanwhile, Portia went to her room and began packing her things. The decision weighed heavily on her chest, but she had made up her mind. She didn't want to cause more trouble. After a few minutes, Keith finished showering and headed to Portia's room to invite her to dinner. Portia, dinner's ready, he said, knocking on her door. When there was no answer, he pushed it open and froze. Portia was gone. So were all her belongings. Portia, he called out, rushing through every room in the apartment. Panic set in as he realized she was truly gone. He stood in her now empty room, chilled by the silence. I have to find her, he whispered, heart pounding. He already had a sinking feeling she must have overheard his conversation with Faith. Without another thought, Keith bolted out the door, not knowing where she had gone or if he was already too late. He ran down the street, eyes scanning every corner, desperate to find her. His lungs burned, his legs ached, but he didn't stop. He searched alleyways, sidewalks, and quiet corners, hoping, pleading, that he would see her. Eventually, he passed a dimly lit street and spotted a familiar figure walking alone with no clear direction. Portia, he called out, voice hoarse from running. She froze but didn't turn around. Please don't leave, Keith begged, catching up to her and struggling to catch his breath. I know you heard what Faith said, but you don't have to go. Please don't. My mind's made up, Keith, Portia said without facing him. I don't want to be the reason your family has problems. But I love you, Portia. Keith's voice cracked with emotion. I don't want us to be apart. That made her stop in her tracks. Slowly, she turned around and saw the raw sincerity in Keith's eyes. Please, he said, reaching out and taking her hand. Don't leave. I love you. I can't stand the idea of being without you. Portia's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't expected to hear those words from him. I love you too, Keith, she said softly, finally giving in to the emotions she'd tried to suppress. But I don't want your parents to hate me. I don't want them blaming you because of me. They won't. I'll fight for us, Portia. I promise, Keith assured her, cupping her face in his hands. I'll make them understand. You don't have to worry. I won't let you go through this alone. I love you. Portia nodded, tears falling freely now. I'm not leaving, Keith. I'm not going anywhere. Hearing that, Keith pulled her into a tight embrace. The world around them faded as they held each other, letting their hearts speak the truth. He whispered, I've gotten used to having you around. I can't imagine a day without you. I love you, Keith, Portia replied with a smile, her heart beating faster than ever. That night they started again, with trust, love, and the courage to stand together. The next day, Keith made a decision. He would take Portia to meet his parents. It was time they got to know the woman he loved. When they arrived at the house, they were greeted by Faith, Keith's sister. Before dinner began, Faith asked to speak to Portia alone in the garden. "Portia," she said softly, her voice filled with hesitation. "I'm sorry for what I said yesterday. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to protect my brother and our family." Portia nodded, recognizing the sincerity in Faith's tone. "I understand, Faith. I know you were just looking out for Keith." Faith took a deep breath. "Keith is very important to me. And if you're important to him, then you're important to me too. Who am I to stand in the way of what you both have?" She smiled gently. "I'm truly sorry for jumping to conclusions. I hope we can get along." "There's nothing to forgive, Faith. I want things to be good between us too," Portia replied, feeling genuine relief. Faith smiled wider and pulled her in for a hug. "Thank you, Portia. I owe you. Hey, how about we go shopping sometime? My treat." "Oh, you don't have to do that," Portia replied, a little shy. "Come on, if you don't agree, I'll pout," Faith joked. Portia laughed. Okay, fine, for world peace." The two of them chuckled softly as they returned inside. At the dinner table, Keith's entire family was gathered. The atmosphere was tense as the meal began. Portia sat quietly, her hands trembling under the table. Then Keith spoke. "Mom, Dad," he began, holding Portia's hand. "I'd like to introduce you to Portia. She's my girlfriend." His parents' faces showed surprise. The room went silent. Mrs. Anderson, Keith's mother, was the first to speak. "Girlfriend?" "Yes, Mom. Portia's the woman I love," Keith confirmed, his voice steady but cautious. Mrs. Anderson looked at Portia, studying her. Portia instinctively tightened her grip on Keith's hand. "What do you do for work, Portia?" she asked coolly. "I'm currently working as a customer service representative for a company, Mom," Portia answered politely, hiding the nerves in her voice. Mrs. Anderson nodded slowly. "And your parents?" "They've both passed away, Mom," Portia replied softly. Keith's parents exchanged a glance. Then came more questions about her background, her plans, her values. Portia, though tense, answered every question respectfully. Eventually, Mr. Anderson spoke up. "To be honest, Portia, I don't want you to be Keith's girlfriend." Keith and Portia exchanged stunned looks. "Why not, Dad?" Keith asked. "She's a good person. Just give her a chance. You won't regret it." "I said what I said, Keith," his father replied firmly. "She's not girlfriend material." Portia's heart pounded, her hands shaking. "But Dad, she's the one I love," Keith said. "I heard you," his dad interrupted. Then, after a pause, he added, "She's not girlfriend material because she's wife material." Everyone froze for a second. Portia looked at Keith, confused. Keith's dad burst into laughter. "I'm just messing with you. You two were so tense." Relief washed over the room. Portia finally smiled. "So does that mean I'm approved?" Keith asked. "Of course. Would I say she's wife material if I didn't approve?" Mr. Anderson replied. Keith turned to Portia. "Told you they'd love you." "Oh, please," Portia said with a grin. "You looked like you were ready to punch your dad when he said he didn't like me." "And you looked like you were about to pee your pants," Keith teased back. Laughter broke out around the table. The evening ended joyfully, with Keith's parents expressing how much they liked Portia and how eager they were for grandchildren. In time, Keith and Portia honored their family's wish. They got married soon after. The wedding was simple, filled with love and laughter. Every detail was meaningful, every moment heartfelt. A year later, their love bore fruit, a healthy, beautiful child. Their family grew stronger and happier each day. Their home echoed with joy, from quiet moments together to celebrations with their child. Portia even reclaimed her childhood home. Keith paid Minerva 3 times its value, leaving the arrogant woman no choice but to surrender it back. Keith and Portia lived happily, content, and fulfilled. Despite all the hardships, they found their joy in each other, and in the laughter of their playful little child. People often think that the greatest debts in life are measured in dollars, but the story of Portia and Keith proved otherwise. Portia wasn't just chasing $500,000, she was fighting for justice, for her dignity, and for the truth behind a promise made to her. To her, that amount wasn't just money, it was a pledge, a vow someone made and walked away from, something that shook her self-worth. Keith, on the other hand, never realized that words can be just as valuable as money, that sometimes the real debt is the one we owe in sincerity, in accountability, and in emotional honesty. This story reminds us, every word we say holds weight, every promise we make leaves a mark, and we can't run forever from what we owe, not to others and not to ourselves. One day, truth always catches up, and most of all, the tale reveals that true wealth isn't counted in stacks of cash, but in the strength to be real, the courage to apologize, and the heart to honor your words and actions. Sometimes, the most valuable thing isn't what we fight for, but who's willing to fight for us. The end. This is Mr. Hope. Thank you for watching.